If you've spent any significant period of time in Vietnam, or you're thinking about moving to Vietnam, something you've probably wondered is, how difficult is it to learn Vietnamese? Now, if you go on these Facebook groups, or you talk to a lot of the expats that are currently living in Vietnam, what you'll hear is that learning Vietnamese is insanely difficult. Hey, some people say it's impossible. I've even heard that foreigners, people that are not from Vietnam, their vocal cords are wired differently and such. You will never be understood by Vietnamese people no matter how much you practice Vietnamese. Well, my name is Cameron Chardukian. I'm from Wisconsin in the USA, and I've been living in Vietnam for the past 4 years. And I can confirm to you that learning Vietnamese is not impossible. In fact, I have a lot of experience speaking Vietnamese now. I have dated girls that don't speak any English. I've been interviewed in Vietnamese. I've read short stories that are in Vietnamese. I've navigated my entire daily life without using English. I've gone days without speaking English at a time and just using Vietnamese. So yes, I understand what it takes to learn Vietnamese now at this point. But things weren't always that way. I remember when I first got here, I would try to speak Vietnamese and people would just look at me with a kind of blank stare or confused look. Usually I wouldn't even get that. Usually they would just laugh at me. I felt like I was getting mocked sometimes. That probably wasn't their intent. But that's not the point. After I was here, even after I was here for 3 years though, I still had trouble speaking Vietnamese. Some people would understand if I asked how much something cost, but if I would try to, I remember coming back from a trip to Thailand with my ex-girlfriend, my girlfriend at that time, and I was talking to her parents, her mom, and I was trying to explain these different pictures to her. She was not getting it. She was nodding, but she was not understanding me. So I know what the pain is like. So how difficult is learning Vietnamese? The Foreign Service Institute estimates that it'll take you about 1,100 hours, plus homework on top of that, over 44 weeks to become fluent in Vietnamese. And if you haven't heard of the Foreign Service Institute before, it's basically a part of the U.S. government, from what I understand, that they help train employees that deal with foreign affairs with the American government. So they're saying it takes more than 1,000 hours plus homework to become fluent in Vietnamese. And I can confirm this. I think that those estimates are reasonable if you want working fluency. You want to communicate Vietnamese in a professional environment. But for most of us that are coming to live in Vietnam, that is not what we're actually looking for. Most of us, we're either teaching English over here or working in a multinational company that they just do dealings or business in English, or we're working online. So for most of us, that is not a concern, at least an immediate concern, that we're going to be doing business in Vietnamese. What most of us want is we want to speak conversational Vietnamese to operate in our daily lives, to customize our order at the restaurant, or to make friends that speak Vietnamese but they don't speak English or Korean or whatever your native language is. I guess your native English. The language that you speak is English if you're watching this. But here's in my experience, this is what you need to become conversationally fluent in Vietnamese. You need to practice for about 2 to 3 hours a day, and you need to do that consistently every single day for about 3 to 6 months. Does that sound crazy? I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it, but that's what it'll take. And what do I mean by deliberate practice? I mean, this is not going to the restaurant and just ordering your fried rice and beef every single day. That does not qualify as practice because you are not stretching yourself. What I mean by 2 to 3 hours of deliberate practice every single day is that, for example, here's my old notebook I used when I was learning Vietnamese. I wrote in this notebook every single day. I used an app called Anki, which is, it's a spaced repetition system, which basically means it's flashcards, and the flashcards are shown to you at an interval right before you're about to forget the words. So basically, you're studying the words that you don't know. You're studying those words more often, and the words that you already have a solid grasp of, you're studying less. But so I would look at these words, and then I would see the English word. For example, the word would be book, and then I would force myself to write by hand the Vietnamese translation. So I would write kun shat, and I did this every single day, often for over an hour per day. And I did this so much, in fact, that my notebook, it actually broke because I was writing in it so much and taking it with me every single day, everywhere I went. But you can see, I started learning Vietnamese in September of 2018, and at that time, I had a decent grasp of Vietnamese, maybe a few hundred words. Maybe you could replicate that in a couple weeks of solid studying on your own if you follow this procedure that I'm giving you right now. But I took all these words and I wrote all these words. And I did this every single day. This is what I'm saying when it's saying learning Vietnamese is possible, but it is going to be difficult work. This is over the course of about 3 months. I wrote all of this. You can see I'm filling these pages 100%, and that's what it's going to take. It's hard to learn Vietnamese. This is not an easy task. So basically, that is about all of it. You can see there's a ton of pages I did. This is maybe 40 pages that I filled. But, so those 2 to 3 hours a day, you are either writing, as I have said, you look at the English word on Anki or Quizlet, and then you think to yourself, okay, what is elephant in Vietnamese? And then you write con voi. And you do that for maybe an hour a day, and then you have a conversational practice. Find yourself a tutor, and you're going to learn the tones in Vietnamese, and you're going to have your tutor drill you on the tones. So you need to become comfortable. Vietnamese is a tonal language. I believe that there's 6 tones, and you need to get comfortable with doing every one of those tones. So, for example, if the word is... Let's just use the example from before. Shat, which is book. If you say shat, no. You need to say shat. You need to be going up with that. So have your tutor drill that into you. Every single time you say a word, if you are not moving your voice in the correct fashion, your tutor should correct you. Find somebody that is not shy about telling you you're wrong. And it's going to be frustrating. Cannot even tell you how frustrating it is. You say, I just said that, and they will repeat the word again. And you will feel like they are just not listening. You're like, I've said this 6 times already. Are you not listening? But your ears and your mouth need to get accustomed to listening and making these fine distinctions in how the tones work. And you need to get comfortable pronouncing these correctly. So an hour or 2 a day of writing, an hour or 2 a day of tonal practice, and when you get frustrated with the tones after 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long, then you can move to conversational practice. So where are we now? So yeah, you can become conversational in about 3 to 6 months and make friends that don't speak any English if you follow this method 2 to 3 hours a day. So how difficult is learning Vietnamese? If you put in the time, I'd say it's difficult. You need to concentrate, you need to focus, but it's not exceedingly difficult. If you've ever learned computer programming, for example, I would say that these are of an equivalent level of difficulty. If you do not break things down into milestones, into small, manageable steps, you will get overwhelmed and you will never make any progress. With that being said, if you show up every day and you put in your 2 to 3 hours of work, you will get it eventually. So, is it worth it? That's another question you might have. I would say learning Vietnamese is definitely not worth it for everyone. But that's up to you to decide. This video is just telling you what you should expect. How difficult is it going to be? So, I hope you got some value out of this video. And actually right now, I've created 2 new YouTube channels. So this channel is going to be more about travel, Vietnam, cultural things. And my other 2 YouTube channels, I have one channel where I'm creating a YouTube channel and only speaking Vietnamese. And I've created another YouTube channel which is about learning software development. So subscribe to this channel or subscribe to those channels, whichever channel you're most interested in. And thank you for watching.